I think we can all agree whether someone is detained before trial should be determined by whether they're a risk to their community and society, not whether they're rich.
Our breakdown tonight, Senator Kamala Harris, a rising star in the Democratic Party, with new legislation to reform America's bail system. She argues this is a civil rights priority because the system punishes innocent people, and while rich can pay to get out, many poor people get stuck in jail regardless of their innocence. 1 out of 3 defendants stuck in jail, not because they committed a crime, but because they couldn't find money to pay for bail. Costs don't end there. Poor people stuck in jail awaiting trial tend to lose their jobs, their housing, even custody of their children, which means an innocent person who's ultimately acquitted at trial could gain their freedom, but literally lose their children along the way. Senator Harris leading a group of politicians in both parties who say that's wrong, and that beyond those humanitarian concerns, the bail system wastes money. The uniforms, the medical screenings, all of it, $14 billion a year spent on people who, again, haven't been found guilty of anything. The new legislation says instead of throwing that money at the old system, states should get grants for reform. Legislators in Connecticut and New Jersey reforming their systems. This debate is spreading. California, a state that often leads the way, has a bail reform bill up for a vote as soon as this month, backed by the ACLU, labor unions, and the musicians John Legend and Common, who just spoke about it at the Capitol this week.
My eyes on the people, that's the prize.
Common has spent his career focusing on socially conscious music and standing up for people. He hopes that comes across in this concert.
When you realize that it's been a systemic thing that has kept people from having their rights.
Defenders of the current system counter that using money for bail is a key incentive, and the risk of all these reforms is that more dangerous people could get out into the street before trial. Join me now, Atu Walker, who was arrested in 2013 after a San Jose traffic cop committed a wrongful arrest. The city ultimately paid him $30,000 over that. He advocates for bail reform and was actually with Common lobbying at that Capitol event. Also with me, Jeff Clayton, the director of the American Bail Coalition, and Assemblyman Rob Bonta of California, who co-authored the bail reform bill in California. Thank you all for this important discussion. Atu, the courts determined that you didn't do anything wrong, and you're saying this bail discriminates. How did it impact you?
Well, first off, Ari, I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be on the show. And bail has created a 2-tiered system which tears families apart, just like it tore my family apart. I was put in jail for 5 days, and that means that happens to people every single day. You have a system that rewards people that have money and punishes people who don't have money to get out and fight for their cases. In my case, my bill was set at $85,000. And that meant that my mother had to go into her retirement account to come up with the 10% so that I could get out and be free and help feed my family. If I wasn't able to get out, I think I still would probably be in jail today.
And so, Mr. Assemblyman, you look at that story, that's part of what you're trying to do, and Atu says it was $80,000 plus. The median in California is $50,000. Most people can't get anywhere near that.
Well, that's absolutely right. We have one of the highest bail amounts in the nation, 5 times the median from the rest of the nation, and we are keeping people in jail who are not a risk to the public, not a flight risk, simply don't have enough money in their pocket, and we are wrongly, unjustly making decisions based on the size of individuals' wallets instead of the size of their risk. That's wrong. There's a better way.
And so, Jeff, how do you counter that? The system clearly not perfect. I don't think you would say that.
No, I think bail schedules are too high in California, obviously, but money is a proxy for risk. The factors the judges consider results in this decision, and certainly all of the consequences that flow from a wrongful arrest, bail pales in comparison. You got to pay your attorney, and of course people are going to lose their jobs and all this sort of thing, and that's one of the things that we're looking at and talking to Assemblyman Bonta about.
So listening to your argument, why do we need a proxy for risk? Why not use what some of these systems are reforming, which is risk-based completely, instead of money? I don't think you want to go on TV and claim that people who are rich enough will never pose a threat. That can't be the premise, can it?
It can't. I agree with that. And I think, certainly these risk computers have come under scrutiny recently. They are counting prior felons in possession of firearms as low risk. And so I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done on these risk assessment computers if we think it's going to replace human judgment.
Assemblyman, speak to that, because anyone at home listening says, wait a minute, innocent people having to sit in jail because they're poor sounds wrong. Then they hear Mr. Clayton say, well, people with weapons here might be miscounted and get out on the street. That also would seem to be a risk. How do you respond?
Ari, you nailed it when you said that if you want to know about risk, ask about risk. Why are we asking about wealth? That has no correlation to risk. If you want to know about risk, get the facts, the data, the evidence that tell you what the risk of an individual is, their flight risk, their risk to the public, and that's exactly what we propose with our reform. That's exactly what Senator Harris is proposing. We should have a system that's based on risk. We are safer that way. It's more fair and just to individuals. It uses our limited public resources more prudently than our system based on wealth. Our system based on wealth is fundamentally broken, and we need to fix it.
And so let's fill that in a little bit, because I think we're getting to the heart of it. So I'm happy the way the conversation's going. Mr. Clayton, we'll look at the New Jersey example here. Before they used this number-based system, you had about 8,000 people held for trial. After, it dropped by about 31%. So you have that decrease while still people are obviously being held, indeed the majority being held when they've been found to be a risk. What's wrong with that, or is that a path to reform?
Well, the part of the New Jersey system that's good is cite and release on low-level nonviolent misdemeanor cases, and that's what's driving those numbers. The problem in California is only 2% of the Los Angeles County jail population is low-level nonviolent misdemeanors. So because of progressive policies in California, I just don't think there's the people to release like there is in New Jersey.
Mr. Assemblyman?
The current money bail system fails in two ways. It keeps locked up and takes the liberty away from individuals who are no risk to the public, no flight risk, simply because they don't have enough money. That's wrong. It also allows individuals with enough means and enough wealth and enough money in their pocket who are dangerous and are flight risks to get out. That's a system that's fundamentally broken. That paints a picture of a system that's failing. The jail door should not swing open and closed based on your ability to pay exorbitant amount of money. And that's what it does now, and we need to change it.
And Atu, you get the final word. What do you want people to know at home who may have never interacted with someone who's been caught up in the justice system the way you were?
I mean, we realistically have to look at the human cost of this. Like, we have people that are in jail for no reason who, just like myself, I got arrested for pretty much a misunderstanding. And we have folks that are going through that all the time. And the human cost is too great when we have to think about feeding our families versus paying for bail. I think Senator Bonta is correct that we need to focus on families first and people first instead of thinking about money.
Atu, Jeff, and Assemblyman Bonta, thanks for this civic dialogue and the debate on this important issue. We hope to have more on it on The Beat ahead.